Okay, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the ProfitMAX podcast, where we bring you insights from industry leaders. And we know that the last couple of years have been truly challenging for most businesses, especially SMEs. And I guess the surviving businesses start to rebuild and recover. So it's good to move forward and starting with the new year, no. And I guess there'll be some prevailing trends that will stay, things like work from home, less business travel, more shopping online, and faster digitalization, and so on. So moving into the new year, to help us understand and how we can build or rebuild a strong business that is resilient to crisis during the current pandemic and so on, and to make the most of what help and support is available to SMEs, it gives me great honor and pleasure to have as our guest today, Datuk William Ng, who's a veteran entrepreneur in the publishing and events industry and also chairman of SAMENTA. So maybe briefly, Datuk, welcome and tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, hello, Peter, and hello everyone who's watching. Thank you so much, Peter, for your invitation to your program. I think, as you know, people say 1 year in business is the same amount of stress and I guess that's therefore the experience as 5 years as an employee. Yeah. So I have been in business for over 20 years. Wow. 20 years now. So we started incidentally not in media, but actually in exhibitions.
Oh, okay.
So I think even as a teenager, I knew that there are two things that are going to be very important to everyone. An equalizer in life, if I may. The first is, of course, affordable and accessible healthcare. And the second is affordable quality education. So because of that, the first exhibition that we organized when I was in my early 20s was an exhibition called the National Health Show that we organized back then in the Putra World Trade Center. Now they have changed the name to WTC KL. So it was a very ambitious project. And like I said, I was in my early 20s, barely out of school. And I woke up one day and I say, if I can bring all these health products and services under one roof, then perhaps it will help people to source and compare, what they need under one roof. So therefore, the National Health Show. And I remember I started that with zero capital, right? People always come to me and say, how much money do you need to start a business? So my answer to that is, in my own case, zero capital. Actually, not zero, but I had 3,000 ringgit in savings. And I used that to, true story. So I used that to register my company and also bought a fax machine. Those days, 20 years ago, we used fax, right, to send out invitation. And with just that 3,000 ringgit capital, so to speak, we made over 1 million ringgit in that very first exhibition itself.
Wow.
I would say in the first year of business, we already hit the 1 million ringgit mark. So if you know, Peter, those were the days when there's no such thing as venture capital, seed funding and whatnot. So therefore also no proof of concept needed. So you just do it and you make the money, as I think how business really should be. Yeah. So the exhibition became a success. And then we launched the Malaysia Career and Training Fair. And this is in 2002. We were the first career fair in the country. Nobody else were doing it. In fact, when we launched it, career fair, people say, it won't work. Nobody believed in it. But until today, the MCTF continues to be the most successful in the country. We had many competitors since then who came about and started copying us. But of course, we are quite happy. We were the first to believe in helping Malaysians get jobs through career fairs. So that is on the exhibition business and how we got started. And you mentioned that we are also in the media business, and that's true. So about 15 years ago, we diversified into the media industry, and that's how we became better known as. Our first B2B title, SME magazine, became an instant success, if I may. And for many years, we were the top seller, beating all the other business magazines, many of whom are, unfortunately no longer around today. Then we launched Asia, Capital Asia, and so on. So today we have 7 B2B media brands. And in fact, we plan to launch 2 more this year. So we are the absolute leader in B2B media today across the region. So that is on the media side. Then about 13 years ago, we launched the SME 100 Awards, which has again become the industry standard today. I think just about every other award today benchmark themselves against the SME 100. And there are also quite a few copycats out there, which we had to take action to, to stop, which we think is actually a further recognition that what we are doing on the right track. Because if not just our competitor, but the whole industry is trying to copy what we do, means we are doing it right. So I think today we run 4 divisions: business media, business awards, exhibitions, and also analytics. So that's to summarize very briefly what we do. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. That's very diverse business. Tell me, Dato, what's been the secret of your success? To be successful, I mean, it's almost like you have a Midas touch, You went into exhibitions and was successful. You went into media, was successful. What's the secret to your success?
I think
Especially
people
when you
always
have so many competitors, right?
yeah, that's right. You see, people always see us or see anyone when they're successful and they say, oh, what's the secret? But I would rather say, there are also a lot of challenges. We face a lot of challenges, as you know. The media industry, for example, is going through a renaissance.
Yeah.
A lot of people think, because of the proliferation of online media, social media, Facebook, and whatnot, that traditional media like us, magazines, will essentially die. So there were a lot of difficult time, when more and more people generate their own content via social media. They say, I don't need to rate anything anymore because you can get everything online. But I think all the more reason why we became, more important. As more and more user-generated content is available, I think there's now a more demand for authenticated and curated content, and that's where we come in, right? As a traditional media, we have the editorial resources with experience and so on to do to be trusted, to have deeper connection with our audience that many of the newer media may not have. So the funny thing is this, Peter, is when the internet became everywhere, I think this is about 20 years back, and you have all these online portals springing up. People say traditional media will die. People like the Star, ourselves, even TV stations, we will all die. That we will sold this idea that this is a new business model, a new industry, and everyone else will be disrupted, and therefore everybody will just close down overnight. But what we didn't know then is this: all this new technology, whether it's internet, social media, and so on, are not really new industries, but are simply new tools for our industry. If you think about it, I always like to tell this narrative. Farmers, those days, farmers used to plant things and then exchange them with neighbors. Say, for example, I plant brinjal and you rear chicken, and then we exchange it, barter trade, right?
Yes.
So this was how businesses were at one point. Then they were disrupted because there were the weekend market. People can go to the weekend market and then pay money and then buy things and so on. So the exchange, didn't happen anymore. But that didn't mean that I stopped farming or you stop rearing chicken. We still proceed, right?
Yes.
And then even that weekend market eventually got disrupted. We have hypermarkets, we have supermarkets, and suddenly all these weekend markets and smaller retailers all closed down, right? So they are disrupted. But has the farmer, like me, stopped planting? No, we still continue to plant. People still need to eat. People still need, the food. So and so on and so forth. So disruption can continue to happen, but at the end of the day, the products will still be in demand, and all this disruption, technology, and new channels are merely tools for us to bring the consumer what they need. And I think that's exactly what's happening in our industry, in my industry, the media industry. Newspaper thought that they are selling newspapers, but in reality, for many years, they have been selling content all along. So for those who realize that, they have now transitioned their delivery online. You can read their newspaper online. You can advertise online. You can subscribe online. And in fact, they become stronger than before. Their cost has become lower. Their distribution become larger. And that's exactly what happened to us, because you asked me, what is the secret? So this is what happened. So, sorry to be a bit lengthy because I get very passionate talking about what we do and how we actually transition. SME magazine, as I said, we have been the industry leader for many years. We sell easily, I think 2 to 3 times more than our nearest competitor. And even before the pandemic, I remember I told my editorial team, I said, hey, you have to come out with a fully digital edition. We cannot do print anymore. Time is up, right? And nobody moved. Okay. So I made a decision before the pandemic, I remember it's end of 2019, December, when the last issue came out. I took a copy of it. I told everyone, the editorial team, I said, look, thank you so much for producing this. this will be our last issue. Next month, no more. Everybody was shocked because they know SME magazine is like a baby to me, and they didn't believe that I would just kill it, But I had to do it because if I don't kill it, it will never be reborn. So the following month, January 2020, before the pandemic, we transitioned fully into digital. Wow. Instead of producing once a month the magazine like we used to do, now I do it every week. So our news become more current, more interesting, and in fact more profitable. Profitable, why? Because over the years we have accumulated over 100,000 WhatsApp emails of SME owners in town, and we couldn't send them the magazine because if we do so, we'll be undercutting our distributors and the newsstand partners. So now that we are no longer in print, we are free, we're liberated, and now we are delivering the digital copy directly. I don't know whether you receive ours, but directly into the WhatsApp and emails of all these SME owners. Right? So suddenly our open rate and engagement rate has shot through the roof. Advertisers are telling us, they said, look, now we are getting 10, 20 times more results than they used to. Wow. So on our part, we also reduced the cost tremendously simply because we're in print. So the magazine became more powerful, more well-read, better engagement, and yet makes more money for us. So I think that is quite important. Is really, as I've said earlier, how do we tap into technology, and we don't believe in all this nonsense, right? Technology displays you. So if anything, it simply means that we become more powerful, stronger by combining this new technology with our track record, our brand, and our expertise in whatever we do.
Yeah. That's a great narrative, great story, Datuk. So right. It shows how nimble you are, to be able to adjust and pivot and adapt to the new situations, to look at it as it really is, as you say, they are really tools, and not just a permanent disruption to another channel. They're just another avenue for you to reach your audience.
Right.
And you've done it remarkably well, using your database, switching over to a soft copy version, emails and WhatsApp and all that. Fantastic. Very good. Right. Well done. Kudos to you, man.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So maybe we pivot a bit from this and talk a bit about your role in SAMENTA. And well, I guess people are probably, I don't know, from my standpoint, I guess we hear a lot more about SME Association versus SAMENTA. So maybe you could tell us a bit more and tell us a bit about SAMENTA. Would that be okay?
Sure. My pleasure. Okay. I think about 15 years ago, I started this organization called Enterprise Asia. So this is just a little bit slightly sidetrack from your question. And then I have to build it into a regional organization, and then I have to resign as a president, and decided last year when I resigned that I should take on a new role somewhere, and that's when I was approached by SAMENTA to take on the role of as chairman and to rebuild their central region. SAMENTA itself is 35 years old, 36 years by now organization. It is the oldest and the first SME association in the country, and by far the largest. We don't compare ourselves with the other associations, but these are all public record, something that all the other associations has publicly mentioned as well. We have about 3,000 direct members. The other association that you have mentioned has got about 500 by their own admission. So we are 5 to 6 times larger by means of direct membership because we are a far older association. However, one disadvantage that we had in the past is that a lot of our activities, a lot of our initiatives, programs are very much based out of the northern region where the SAMENTA actually was born. So we were born 36 years ago in Penang. And until today, we are still very much on board of everything in Penang. We are on the Joint Chamber. We sit in a multiple committee along with the state government. We're very well represented and very well regarded in the northern region. And I think the past 1 year, we decided that we should obviously put more focus on the central region. And we're doing exactly that right now. To perhaps then, like you said, not many people may have come in touch with us, but we are changing that quite rapidly. During the pandemic, as you would remember, we are on the news almost every day, trying to champion the SMEs and our interest to the government and to whoever would want to hear. We've done a lot of activities in Kuala Lumpur and Selangor in this region. And I think today we have also been invited because of our activity to quite a number of government initiatives and government committees. And we'll continue to do so. Because we know that we have a long track record of helping SMEs. We don't go out there and boast about how good we are, how strong we are. We just get things done.
Mm.
Many loyal members that is with us for 20, 30 years. In fact, next month, we are doing a mini celebration, not a mini celebration, but a 35th anniversary celebration in Penang with the TYT of Penang and the Chief Minister of Penang in attendance. Again, we will be recognizing quite a number of members that have been us since 35 years ago. So there you go, a quick summary of what SAMENTA history is all about. The fact that we are not just the oldest, but also the largest association, absolutely by number of members.
Okay, right. All right. Thanks for that. That's a good background. Well, we're turning our attention to the overall SME sector in Malaysia. It's been really challenging, I guess, for many SMEs, compounded by the lockdowns and so on. So most likely there'll be other crises down the road, no? So what actions from your standpoint, no, as sort of having a bird's eye perspective of the SME landscape in Malaysia, what actions do you think SMEs should take to future-proof their business to remain resilient in times of adversity like this or future calamities, if I want to call it that?
Yeah, obviously I am advantaged in the sense that we are part of SAMENTA. We have a few hundred members in various WhatsApp groups, plus, like I said, thousands of members who are actively involved in our association. So we get a lot of feedback. And I think there are really three lessons to be learned here. The first, and I think you would know, is that cash is indeed king. I think many SMEs, especially the startups, have been sold the wrong idea that you need to scale fast because they're chasing after other people's money. The truth is profit, and therefore cash is indeed king. So moving forward, businesses, I think, must learn to never again sacrifice profitability for scale. If you must scale, you should scale profitably. Don't just scale for the sake of scaling. That is why I like the title of your program, right? ProfitMAX. So it's not just blindly growing, but growing profitably. Yeah. I think the second lesson is really that the future is really about automation and digitalization. We have heard this word so many times and it's all true. How do you tap into technology and platforms to really lower down your costs and speed up things within your business? Many of the businesses that survive today, I would think it's either one of three things. One is because in the right business, right time. The glove business, for example, is doing very well. You don't have to do anything. It just happened. The pandemic happened and you're doing well. The second are those with very strong.
Right away, yeah.
Absolutely. And the second one is those people who are just have strong financial backing. They have got strong reserve. They say, okay, we lose money this year, we still have money to survive. But the third ones that actually survive, and this is the majority, are those who actually started automating themselves, digitalizing themselves. When you say digitalizing, automating themselves, many years before the pandemic happened. So it's still not too late to automate and digitalize, but I think you must do it fast and do it now. So that's the second lesson that we can learn from this pandemic. The third one, and this is actually the sum of the first and the second, and that is how to bring your costs down and cut your reliance on labor. Malaysian SMEs have a notorious reliance on labor, both foreign and local. I think you have heard, we have been talking about a shortage of labor in the newspaper for several weeks now, because that is very genuine. A lot of businesses cannot operate because they don't have enough labor. Yeah. And this causes our margin to be very slim, right? Because we are dependent on employees.
Yes.
So when like now, when you have labor shortage, the factories cannot operate. So how? They can't do anything, right? So I think the final and third lesson that we must really focus on moving forward is really how do we improve our productivity. That is why at SAMENTA, we have channeled almost half our energy the past 1 year working with MPC, the Malaysia Productivity Corporation, because we know. So it's not so much of financing, it's not so much about all this government intervention, but it's really how do we help SMEs moving forward to focus on the productivity. How do we bring down our cost of production while at the same time paying our people even more, right? So these are the three things that our SMEs, I think, must do now. One is to focus on profit, to automate, and of course, to bring up their labor productivity.
Yeah, I think those are very good principles. Thanks for that insight.
Right.
And I guess, yeah, you're right. No, unless you're in the glove industry, many companies and businesses have been affected, especially in retail, food and beverage. Would you have some statistics nationally? What would be the impact?
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have a recent one, but in our last survey in June last year, our feedback was that about 2 out of 3 SMEs say that they were ready to give up their business. So we suspect, since then, we have not done a research, but we suspect that almost 1/3 of all SMEs have either closed down, they just close down a business or abandon it. So the record by the government may not even be accurate or up to date, or they have transitioned substantially into other business models. So say instead of selling vegetable, they may be doing something else altogether. So they're not exactly closed down. So 1/3 of all SMEs have either closed down or, like I said, transitioned substantially into other business models. So
just to survive and tide over the period, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. I think even, and the flood made it worse, right? The recent flood.
Yes. I call it the Great Malaysian Flood.
Yeah, the Great Malaysian Flood. I like the name. So you call it the Great Malaysian Flood. I call this pandemic the Great SME Plague, right? So it destroyed so many SMEs, and it's very sad because some of these could have been rescued. I think had actions been taken much earlier by the government and by the society at large.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
All right. So talking about that, what support or assistance is available for SMEs in the various areas you mentioned, and what else would be helpful to us if we had a wish list? What could we wish for?
I get asked this all the time, and of course, from SAMENTA's perspective, a long list of what we could do, but we also need to be realistic because the government has limited resources. We know that, so we also have to be realistic, But I think we need to bear in mind that it wasn't really the pandemic that killed the SMEs. It was first and foremost the uncertainty and the cash flow issue, right?
Yes.
The government, if you remember, it didn't allow any SME to retrench anyone. Even though the business cannot operate. You still have to pay salary. They say if you don't pay salary, we're going to sue you. We're going to take you as a director to court. We're going to put you in jail. We don't care if you got money or no money. We'll still do that if you fire anybody, right? So we're threatened with legal action if you have to let go anyone, But we simply have run out of money to pay salary last year and in 2020. So that was the biggest challenge that we had, right? The cash flow issue. And then there was all this confusing SOP, at least initially, in 2020, there's a lot of SOP coming up, and one SOP will conflict with another one, So it was all this.
People were totally confused.
That got improved over the months, but initially it was so confusing. And I think there was this confusion, this uncertainty, and of course the forced cash outflow. I call it the forced cash outflow. I think that caused some of our SMEs, who collapsed to collapse. And we at SAMENTA, we have lobbied very hard. So, we are in the news almost every day fighting for the SMEs. And I think subsequently, we're quite thankful. The government has listened to us and done a reasonably good job. Today, we have the wish subsidy, which I thought is very important to relieve the cash flow issue. And then there's the moratorium, the bank moratorium for loans. That was finally announced. Although it wasn't what we wanted it to be interest-free, but it was announced, the moratorium, and then it was up to the bank and so on. It wasn't automatic, but at least there was a moratorium. Then, of course, there's now this tax relief given to landlords, so that there's some landlords, not all, were then willing to actually give us a bit of a subsidy or rent reduction to businesses. So if, as you have said, if there's anything I can wish for, not so much about more money or more finances or labor shortage, or all these things are important, but they're all very secondary. I think what is very crucial right now for us as a country is I wish for us to have a more stable political climate. I think the political uncertainty is creating two huge problems for us. One is what I call policy stagnation. So we must say we are quite thankful because we work with a lot of government departments, and we're quite thankful to our civil servants. The civil servants are not the politicians. We're doing a fantastic job during this entire pandemic. Because you can see some of the politicians, right, very keen to fight for jobs than actually doing it. So I must say, thank God for our hardworking and professional civil service. And we absolutely need a political stability moving forward. Because the other problem with that is, one, of course, is that policies doesn't work anymore, right? The second problem is that as the instability goes on, right, there's going to be more and more populist policies, like all these handouts. People prefer to give handouts because these are the voters, man. You give them 500, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, in a hope that they
some people call helicopter money.
And to me, that's not exactly what we should be doing. In an ideal situation, if you have a bit more political stability, I believe the government of the day would then really focus on what is important. So, where
building a good foundation for the future, not just looking at short term.
Absolutely. The infrastructure, the economy, these are more crucial, right? For example, we always say why are you giving all these direct handouts to the consumers? Yeah, they take the money. Yes, some of them use it for food and whatever not, but there are also some people buying handphones, new clothes and all these things. At the time when they are still earning salary and so on. I think what we should have done is give this subsidy to the company even more to ensure that they retain and hire the people. So everybody has a job. When everybody has a job, then you don't need to give handouts.
Yeah.
So you should have focused on that rather than giving it directly to the people. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but we should have focused more on businesses and economy, because that would be a stronger midterm and long-term response to the pandemic.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Fully agree with all those points you made. Good points. Dato, in Malaysia, as in many countries, there are also many successful entrepreneurs who have been successful in business, yourself being one of them, no? What are some of the key characteristics that these more successful companies have, no? Is it mindset? Is it skills and capabilities? Is it or is it just sheer grit and drive and determination?
I'm tempted to now tell another story if you have a bit of time.
Sure.
And this is something quite personal. I have never shared this with anyone publicly, but since we are on Zoom today. So you remember 18 March 2020, that was the day of the first MCO, when Prime Minister then Tan Sri Muhyiddin said, we're going to lock down 18 March 2020. Now, 3 days before that, on 15 March 2020, unfortunately, a fire broke in my house. A fire, right? Wow. So my house was burned down 3 days before MCO. Until now, we couldn't, repair it because of the MCO and lockdown and so on. So unfortunately, nobody was injured, although sadly, our cat perished in that fire. So the house was burned down. I was homeless for the first time. And 3 days later, the Prime Minister announced a lockdown. And I told myself, right, this is it. We are done. Because you have to bear in mind the nature of our business, right? After the airlines and travel agents, I think the media and events business is probably the worst affected by the pandemic. So at the point, really, we thought we were just going to be done, gone, right? All the 20 years of hard work going down the drain, and then homeless for the first time. For the first 1 week after the fire, I was staying in the office, taking shower in the bathroom. Real story.
My goodness.
So. And I've now shared this with anybody, right? So this is in early 2020, right before the lockdown. So for 1 whole month, like everyone else, when the lockdown came, we didn't know what to do. Then some of my staff came to me and they said, boss, you know what? We know it has been very tough for you, for your business and for you personally. So can we volunteer to take a pay cut?
Wow.
You don't have to announce, we'll take a pay cut. And I tell you, Peter, I was so touched, very touched. And for a few seconds, I don't know how to respond. I was just stunned. Never in my life had I expected my staff to come to me and say, please give me a pay cut. Because it's always, can you give me a raise, right?
Yeah.
So then I made a decision. I said, no matter how tough the rest of the pandemic is going to be, I'm not going to retrench a single person. I'm not going to cut a single cent from anybody. And if I say to myself, if I had to pawn everything I have, sell off my car, pawn everything, then that's exactly what I would do. And that I think is the single most important lesson I learned during this pandemic. Not only did we not collapse, when all our competitors have collapsed, other media, other events company, all of them has closed down or collapsed. So not only did we not collapse, 2020, in the thick of the pandemic year, was our best year ever in the history of our company. And in fact, last year, as you may know, we were successfully listed in the Singapore Stock Exchange despite the pandemic. So it's close to a miracle. So I think business is not really very complex. It is the so-called gurus who made them out to be very complex. I think if you take care of your employees will take care of your customers, who in turn will take care of your business. That's it. I think that's what business, is all about. And I'm referring this because you mentioned about successful entrepreneurs. I won't say that I'm one of them. I was fortunate because we made the right decisions at various points, this juncture of our business. But I always believe there are things that you cannot control. For example, you could be born into a wealthy family or a family with connections, or the other way around, right? When you have got no connection and you're born into a more ordinary family. And if you're going to be born into a wealthy family, then obviously your entrepreneurial journey is going to be a lot smoother. So 7 out of 10, and this is public information, 7 out of 10 of the businesses that got listed are either run by second generation founders or founders with strong family background. And you look at the likes of Mark Zuckerberg, even Donald Trump and so on, right? But then there are also things in life that you can control. The innovation that you bring into your product, the way you take care of your people, and learning how to build and lean and mean processes. I think these are what separate the successful businesses from those that are ordinary businesses.
Yeah. I must say that's a very inspiring true story somehow, huh? What you just said, no? That your staff actually walked up to you and say, hey boss, we know what you've gone through, we know what the business is going through, and we want to tell you, we want to take a pay cut. That is fantastic, and that's really inspiring. So it shows your leadership and how well you must have treated them so that they feel like part of your family, And also I want to just emphasize that I call it the virtuous cycle, which I think Richard Branson and Jack Ma also have talked about. You look after the team builds the business, looks after the business, grant you customers and good customers and repeat business, and then you get rewarded in return. So it's a virtuous cycle.
Right.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's great insight. Thanks for that. Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know you had to go through that horrible shock of seeing your house be burned down.
Yeah.
Well, I guess thank goodness for insurance, but I guess it's a small compensation compared to the loss of your property and all that stuff. Okay, all right. So maybe before I let you go, Dato, maybe what would be your top 1 or 2 pieces of advice for business people and entrepreneurs for 2022? And
I think
forward,
I think like I've shared earlier, don't get sidetracked by all these gurus out there. During difficult time like this, a lot of people will come to you and they'll tell you to pivot or to invest in this or that, or to do this and that, and you're going to make a lot of money and survive and thrive and whatnot. I've seen so many perfectly fine businesses. Yes, they have a bit of cash flow issue. Yes, the business may not be doing very well right now, but they're perfectly fine businesses. But they're ruined, by people who pretend they know what they're talking about. So don't listen so much. So the reality is this: nobody knows your business better than yourself as an entrepreneur. So listen to all these options and all these opinions, but ultimately trust your own judgment.
Yep. Very good advice. So no one knows the business better than you, and you have to be fervent and very firm in your stand, because only you can see what other people cannot see. Only you have a vision for your business, and you have to ultimately take those hard decisions, and sometimes it's going against the grain, sometimes going against the opinion of your friends, your leaders, your consultants, your advisors, but ultimately the buck stops there. We have to be accountable as the entrepreneurs, as the founders of our businesses, to go for it. And it reminds me of what I can't remember, In Search of Excellence, I think was the great book in the 1980s, where one of the principles of excellence was stick to the knitting. Yeah. If you're in the knitting business, don't try and be a hero and go into the shoe business or something. I mean, I'm not saying don't diversify, but you should stick to what you're good at. Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay, great. So it's been wonderful chatting with you, Dato. Thanks for all your insights.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I think the audience will get a lot out of this. So you guys, I hope you keep following our ProfitMAX podcast, and I hope you get lots of value from this and future episodes. And I just want to encourage you, if you find this useful, please tell your friends, and better yet, subscribe to the podcast, and give us a like and share. That will help us to grow. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter, and take care, everyone. Take care.